How often does self-care feel selfish? Hey guys, Sarah K Ramsey here to help you find love and success after a toxic relationship so you can bounce back better. And I had an amazing client call today with a very lovely lady, and she said she was listing out the problems she was looking to solve because most of the coaching calls, the question I give my clients over and over again is, what problem are you looking to solve? What problem are you looking to solve? What problem are you looking to solve? Okay. And so I asked her what problem she was looking to solve. And she goes, I know I need to do work. I need to do right by myself, but self-care feels so selfish. Okay. And I said, ooh, one of my favorite things to talk about. And I recently read the book Untamed by Glennon Doyle. And throughout the years, there have been several things that she has said that I really resonated with or really liked. I especially love her work on martyr motherhood and basically saying we want to be the type of person we want our daughters to become, try not to be people so that our daughters can become people, which really doesn't make any sense, right? Is to tell our daughters, oh, your hobbies, your interests, your rests, your friendships, all these things are important until you become a mother. And then as soon as you become a mother, none of that matters anymore. You just pay attention to your kids, right? It's not even logical. But she does a really good job explaining that. But in her book, one of the things she talked about is basically, and excuse my language here, I tried to keep it clean on videos, but she basically said, I'm a grown-ass woman and I'll do whatever the F I want. Okay? And there was several comments kind of surrounding that energy. And so much of self-care almost feels as if it is working within that energy. And that's why it feels selfish. I'm a grown woman. I do what I want. I deserve this. I'm worth this, right? And most of my clients, and definitely me, that doesn't energetically align, right? Because that sounds more like a teenager than it does a woman wanting to live in integrity, wanting to give back to the world, wanting to love well, wanting to be an example for herself and others, right? Those are my people. Those are my women. And so most of the work I love of Glennon Doyle, but that one piece I kind of thought, man, I don't know. I feel like, we get into people pleasing, and then you step out of people pleasing, and then you say, I can do what I want. I deserve to live in my own way, in my own ideas, in my own way, rather than trying to people please. Okay, so that's a landing point. But I don't think it's the final destination, because growing in maturity, growing in wisdom, growing in love, growing in spirituality, growing in being a good person, you can be a good person and not always people pleasing. Okay? Because it's about doing the right thing, both for yourself and others. Okay? And there's a Bible verse said, love others as you love yourself, right? And for people who've had that spiritual background, what ends up being taught is love everyone except for yourself, right? Or the golden rule, do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. And it's like, no, do right by all others. Don't worry about you. And it creates this really unhealthy balance that in some ways people are trying to counterbalance by, I'm a grown woman, I can do whatever the heck I want, which is a very immature, aggressive energy that most of my clients, that's not what they're looking for. They want to be respected. They want to respect themselves, and they want to do right by people. My reminder is, you are people. I want you to do right by people, and you are people. So when you say no, or this is what I can and cannot handle, that's something that should be respected, because you think people should be respected, and you are people. And sometimes we think about humility, and we think about humility as self-deprecation, right? And within self-deprecation, oh no, my hair doesn't look that good today, or oh, my butt looks big in these jeans, or oh, I'm not the best person for the job. And that's part of female culture. You rarely hear men talking that way, but it becomes part of female culture, and it's a way to be considered humble or not too big for your britches. But in reality, it's teaching our daughters and teaching others that the way to be a woman is to tear herself down. And if you don't think people should be torn down, you are people. Don't tear yourself down. And within that piece of humility, I want to kind of flip a switch in your brain. And rather than thinking about humility, being humble, as someone who talks badly about themselves, okay? Think about being humble is knowing what you can and cannot do well. You cannot give, and never replenish yourself and it go well. You can never say yes to everyone except for yourself and it go well. Okay? The goal of maturity and the goal of integrity is doing right by people, and you are people. Okay, so next time in your head when it's like, oh, I couldn't say no to her, or I couldn't say no to this, or, everyone is important except for me. Why not you? That's really almost flip it in your head. It's a good way to flip it because we think, oh, I'm a bad person if I say no. And really when we start flipping in our head and say, gosh, I'm a bad person, quote unquote, bad person if I think that I don't need rest, that I can do all the things well, that I can give to everyone in the whole world except for myself. That is no longer being a good person to me. Putting up with your bad behavior because you have a bad day and being your punching bag no longer feels like being a good person to me. Trying to constantly save someone who's unwilling to save themselves no longer feels like being a good person to me. Constantly putting myself last, so I'm always tired, so I'm always confused, so I'm always worn out, so I'm always at the end of my rope, ready to lose my patience, no longer feels like being a good person to me. Being humble enough to say, okay, this is what I can do, this is what I cannot do. That feels good to me. That feels like the right thing. We think about self-care in terms of spa days, and I did get my nails done today, right? So I'm not opposed to spa days, right? I wanted to sit in the massage chair. I'm not opposed to spa days, but gosh, self-care is knowing what you're good at, knowing how to manage your energy, knowing how to clear out the junk, and so you're not talking bad thoughts to your head. Self-care is no longer thinking that my job is to do all the work of the relationship. Self-care is leading my kids by example, rather than hoping that if I sacrifice enough, they won't turn out like me. That is self-care. That is doing the right thing. And it's a whole lot more holistic and grown up and fabulous than the idea of, I'm a grown woman, I do what I want, right? That's how that's what teenagers talk like. That's what very young people talk like. And your goal is to blossom in maturity and grace and love and kindness so you can give back to the world. And one of the ways you can give back to the world is taking your own advice. I know how many of you say, oh, I give great advice to other people, right? Please, please, please. If you have a healing person, you're taking advice from someone at church, or you're taking advice from a therapist, or you have a coach, please, please, please make sure they are following their own advice and walking the walk rather than just talking the talk, right? And may you walk the walk and not just talk the talk. May you recognize red flags and walk away from them. May you stand up for yourself in a way that is kind and gracious. And may you learn the rules of the toxic relationship game so you don't get sucked in. Hope you have a great day.